Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our third Global Conversation webinar, this time on the future of international marketplace events. My name is Elena Cavallero, and I'm a project manager at Extracts, based in Manchester, UK. Extracts is a Manchester-based development organization specialized in outdoor arts. We have been running showcase events, seminars, trainings, and professional development opportunities for nearly 20 years. We're also the managers of Without Walls, which is the biggest outdoor arts consortium in the UK dedicated to commissioning and touring new outdoor work from British artists. This webinar is the third in a series of global conversation events aimed at facilitating information sharing between nations and continents and spark a debate about the future of our sector. This is the last event of 2021, but we're currently planning to continue in 2021, focusing our attention on a number of conversations around new models of sustainable touring. For a third Global Conversations online event, we're very excited to have a fantastic lineup of speakers who all run some of the largest performing arts marketplace events across the world. They will share insight into the current situation of the art sector in their countries and regions, talk about their experience of reshaping live events into a digital format, and reflect on some of the opportunities these industry events can offer in terms of showcasing the work of artists and help build new connections, albeit digitally. We all recognize the international marketplace are crucial to the development of the outdoor art sector, but we ask what the future looks like for international marketplaces with the ongoing disruption of COVID-19, the uncertainties around the future of UK and EU relations, and the climate emergency. As you will have probably noticed, our speakers for today are based across the world. So we have pre-recorded some of this content in the past few days. The conversations are structured into three main questions, which you will see appear on the screen. We would love to see you share your thoughts in the chat during the webinar, and we will also reconvene soon after the webinar in a Zoom meeting to discuss openly the content of the event and to say hi to new and familiar faces. I will provide all the instructions to join at the end of the webinar, but we would love to see many of you there. Now, I'd like to welcome and introduce our five speakers. Catherine Jones is the director of the Australian Performing Arts Market APAM office. APAM is designed to showcase Australian and New Zealand contemporary dance, theatre, emerging and experimental arts nationally and internationally. APAM normally hosts 1 or 2 annual APAM gatherings at established festivals around Australia, which have replaced the previous biannual market events. Ruth Wickler is Deputy Director of Programming Circus Arts at Toho in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, where she develops circus programming for Toho's annual performance season and Summer Montreal Complement Cirque Festival, and also directs the MIC, International Market for Contemporary Circus. Ruth has been curating theatre and performance for the past decade. Mike Ribalta is head of Fira Taraga's professional department. Fira Taraga is the international market for performing arts that takes place every year in Taraga, Spain. It is a great showcase of what is going on in performing arts, with an eclectic program placing special emphasis on street arts, visual, and unconventional shows. As a meeting place and an international point of reference for debate, the main objective of Fira Taragas is to boost the performing arts market. Kyu Choi is the creative director at Performing Arts Market in Seoul, PAMS, one of the major performing arts platforms in the Asian Pacific region, and founder of Asia Now Productions. Kyu has also worked as a performing arts festival director, first at the Chungcheon International Mime Festival and then the Anson Street Arts Festival. Most recently, he was creative director of the UK Korea Season Festival 2017-2018 at British Council, Korea. Finally, the event will be opened by Extracts' director, Maggie Clark, who will offer her thoughts on the current situation in the UK and on the future for international marketplaces. Before we proceed with the webinar, I just want to run through a few practicalities. We received more than 75 registrations for today's webinar, and it's great to see that so many of you are watching right now. This session will run for 1 hour and 30 minutes, so until 3:30 p.m. or just before that, if you're in the UK. It will then be followed by 30 minutes of networking, which I will tell you more about at the end. Please use the chat to say hello, who you are, and where you're from. Make sure you're messaging all panelists and attendees, as the default setting is all panelists. Please feel free to share your comments in the chat during the webinar. For access purposes, we're providing live captioning. To activate your captions, simply click on the button that says Captions. Also, for access purposes, we'll all be describing ourselves. So I'm Elena, she, her. I'm white with dark hair, and I'm wearing a shirt and a purple jumper. We're recording this session and we will make these available on the Extracts website after the event. Feel free to comment, post, and tweet about this session, and make sure to follow Extracts on social media. Finally, a few questions will come up as you exit the webinar, and we'd kindly ask you to take 2 minutes to give us some feedback. I will now hand over to Maggie Clark.
Hello, my name is Maggie Clark and I'm the Director of Extracts. I am white with ginger blonde hair and I am wearing a black high neck jumper. It is lovely to be able to connect with friends and colleagues and fellow professionals from around the world through the power of the internet in spite of the COVID-19 pandemic. Here in the UK, we are in a lockdown at the moment, so I and my colleagues are all working from home, and most of us haven't had the chance to meet up in person in the context of a festival or a marketplace event for many months, or indeed over a year. For us at Extracts, the development and delivery of showcase events has always been at the heart of our work. Over the years, we've developed relationships with artists, festivals and presenters in the UK and internationally to create opportunities for artists to present their work to a wide audience of promoters, artists and industry professionals from all over the world. We've learned how to add layers of professional networking opportunities onto these events, alongside discussions, debates and presentations, to enable the people in our sector to meet with one another, to share information and expand their knowledge of what is happening in our sector around the world. We all know that the wonderful industry in which we work is built on relationships, and that for the most part, these relationships are forged through meeting people in person. I know that there are countless people around the world who I have met regularly at different festivals and events in many different countries. And whilst we may not know one another well in a personal way, we've established professional friendships that help us in our work and that form the foundation of a global professional network. These relationships are crucial to our work at Extracts, and I really treasure these encounters. And one of the things that I and all my colleagues at Extracts enjoy the most is the opportunity to share our network, facilitating introductions between artists, promoters and festival organisers from around the world, and brokering new relationships through our showcase events. And in this atmosphere of creativity, with the opportunity to see many wonderful shows and performances from around the world, with hundreds of visiting delegates in our presence, connections are made and collaborations are seeded and ideas are generated. And in some cases, importantly, invitations are issued and tours begin to get booked. For our funders, this last point is critical. The value of the international bookings generated by our events is a key measure of our success. Though in reality, this is just one part of how we should measure the impact of showcase and marketplace events. So we had planned a range of events for this year that would include hosting showcase events here in the UK, as well as working with a number of international partners to broker opportunities for UK artists overseas. With COVID and the travel restrictions that are still in place because of the pandemic, no international travel has been possible for us since March. And whilst we're optimistic about the news of a vaccine that could help things return to some kind of normal very soon, we don't know when this will arrive, nor do we know whether there is any return to the normality we once knew, as the world has certainly changed as a result of what we've experienced in the last 8 months. For artists, this has been devastating, with many losing all of their work for the year, both in the UK and internationally. In the UK, we've been fortunate that there has been some access to emergency funding through our arts councils, but this has in no way compensated artists for the financial loss they've experienced. And for many artists for whom international touring is a core part of their income, this looks set to potentially continue into next year, as uncertainty over travel restrictions means that many major festivals and presenters that we've spoken to are looking to minimise risk by focusing on presenting domestic rather than international work at their events in 2021. This is a particularly acute challenge for artists in the UK and in Europe, as we have the upcoming challenges of Brexit to negotiate, as well as the challenges of the pandemic. And Brexit presents major logistical, bureaucratic and financial challenges to UK and European artists travelling into and out of the UK and Europe. This challenge is likely to continue even after quarantine regulations are lifted. Our website contains some helpful resources and information to help artists and festivals in Europe navigate these challenges. However, the loss of international touring is not just a matter of financial value. International travel for artists, festivals, and for audiences opens the door to new ideas, stimulates creative development, and is a key driver in artistic evolution. It needs to be treasured for many more reasons than the export value alone, and we need to make sure that all of our partners and funders understand that. However, in the last 8 months, whilst we have been locked into our local neighbourhoods, we have had to rethink all of our work. We've moved much of our work onto online platforms, of course, and learned how to run webinars and online networking events. And artists and festivals have shown great imagination and ingenuity in how they can share their creative output in many different ways. And much of this, I have no doubt, we will take forward into the post-COVID world. A key point here is that the lockdown and the move to online working has caused the whole world to focus on the environmental impact of our domestic and international travel. And in terms of international touring, this is something that we know we need to focus on. As a result of COVID, we have a renewed focus on the urgency of exploring new models of international touring that look to minimise the carbon impact of travel and touring, whilst still enabling important and essential artistic exchange to take place. This, of course, is a challenge not just for our industry, but we're confident that we, as a creative organisation and being part of a creative community, we have an important contribution to make to advancing this discussion. And in some ways, whilst there is, of course, no substitute for seeing performances and meeting people live rather than through a screen, there are some clear benefits to the move to online international networking events. In the last 8 months, many of the major showcase organisers have organised some really interesting events and activities, including our panellists today. And I know I've really enjoyed attending events organised by APAM, by PAMS in Seoul, by Tariga in Catalonia, the Seoul Street Arts Festival Forum last week, and many others without having to leave my home. It saved time and money, and I've managed to connect with colleagues around the world through this medium. And now that we're all familiar with online conferences, this offers clear opportunities for further international networking, perhaps with festivals and artists in countries with whom we've had very little connection historically. We've had online attendance for some of our showcase events and activities from delegates in countries who have never attended our events in person, perhaps because the cost of travel to attend or the challenges of securing a visa are prohibitive, or in some cases, disabled delegates who may find travelling itself prohibitive. So at Extracts, we're exploring how we can capitalise on the accessibility of online platforms to expand our network internationally and learn more about activity happening in different parts of the world that we may not have visited in person. These creative opportunities for us to broaden and diversify our networks are genuinely exciting. So we are desperately hoping we can bring back our live showcase events soon, but I think we will want to hold on to some of what our online activity has taught us too. I think that is all I want to say for now. I look forward to hearing from my international colleagues and gaining your perspectives as experts in what is happening in your different countries and how you see the future of international marketplaces and international networking after this extraordinary year that we've all lived through. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Catherine Jones. I'm the Director of the Australian Performing Arts Market at APAM. I'm zooming today from the unceded land of the Boonwurrung and the Wurundjeri people in Naarm, or Melbourne, as you might know it. For those of you who might need a description, I'm a 40-something woman, white woman with dark curly hair and glasses, and I'm wearing a black very Melbourne top. So the situation varies in Australia really dramatically depending on where you are. So I live in Melbourne and we are only a couple of weeks out of the most severe lockdown that Australia has had. We were in lockdown second time round for nearly 16 weeks. So as we emerge from this lockdown, we have only just last night found out that Venues can now host 20 patrons, regardless of the size of the venue, up to 20 patrons. You know, most venues are still closed. There's been a recent release of some money towards the summer, thinking about programming outdoors, but a lot of places are still kind of getting their programs together about what that might look like. In other parts of the country, it's really, really different. Festivals have been taking place. Darwin Festival did their event in August this year. It was a local program. It was really, really successful with both indoor and outdoor work. The Brisbane Festival went ahead in Brisbane in September, and Circus presented Leviathan, you know, one of their newest works that premiered early this year. And they also did a really interesting program where they took over the bikeways of the cities and did a whole heap of kind of outdoor and street performance using that as the stage, really. So really trying to think, I think, quite differently around what, you know, COVID safe programming looks like. In terms of financial support, it's equally really varied across the country. Some states have had some very robust programs that artists have been able to access. Federally, we haven't had a huge amount of money. We have had some commitment, but actually, even though that was announced, I think in August or late July, none of that money has yet flowed through to the sector. It's been kind of caught up in bureaucratic red tape. So again, I think it does just really vary. And one of the things, and I don't think Australia is alone in this, that has been highlighted through the pandemic is the real inequity that exists within our sector, depending on whether you work in an institution, whether you're a freelancer, and you know, I think really this is the time for us to think about how we reset and how we really look to structurally make some big changes in terms of the way that the industry is functioning.
Hi everyone, my name is Q, based in Seoul. I am a producer of Asia Now, which is a international producing company, and also now currently working creative director of Performing Arts Market in Seoul 2020. I am around 50 years old, early 50, wearing glasses. Recently I have new glasses, blue glasses, 176 centimeters. What's happening in Korea outdoor street arts circus activity? Actually, three different approach. I mean, obviously, due to outbreak of COVID-19, most major activity were cancelled. But important thing is artist has always creative thinking, also new imagination. So working with the festival organization or in a cultural sector, actual physical festival or outdoor activity cancelled, but different way approach is different way presentation, which means you know, though actual physical the festival format cancelled, but they did many online digitalization, live streaming without audience in the street things. So where, I mean, the festival and also cultural organizations support artists keep working that, and also stay connected with the audience who are interested in outdoor works. And also big sort of changes, research or creative development fundings. Also festival changed their way of supporting artists. For example, Pohang Street Art Festival, so they created emerging artists creative development. So they connect with the established artists based in Seoul and Gyeonggi province. They did a workshop and a scratch, and then hopefully they can developing project in 2021. And also in the Art Council funding, also Foundation for the Arts. In Korea, we don't have some genre-based sector supports, especially for the street art. So combining interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary area. So they sort of providing research or project development fundings, that kind of things. And also festival, they created more participatory with citizens telling their city storytelling. So one is as an exhibition format near the the metro station, or also as well as if you can click the QR code, also that storytelling you can see the online there or also at home. So a lot of project combining physical and virtual way presentation. That one was a sort of interesting approach. But the other interesting approach is like a circus festival, Circus Cabaret. They created drive-in circus performance. Things at Chuncheon Mime Festival, before they did half outdoor, half indoor things. So they changed it about conventional way of festivals, which means not 4 days festival, 5 days festival. They did a 2 months. Also space-wise, not the square streets. They go more daily life space or nature or a forest in the island. So keeping social distance, audience safety way approach. So overall, outdoor street art or a circus performance, we think that without human contact, it was very difficult having the sharing sense. But artists always doing in a different way. Also, Korea street art outdoor festivals has grown up due to city support rather than driven by artists. So we had a big sort of argument without consultation with the artists, cancellation done by the city bureaucratic way things. So artists had a advocacy talk, emergence forum. So where we can talk about our voice, how we street artists connect with people, citizens. That was interesting kind of things changed. The other interesting things is before we really focus on the big city square, major street, that kind of things. But artists starting to think about my neighborhood, locality. So the topic we have a big discussion right now is rather than street art, also outdoor work is how the art connect with the city. That was a sort of interesting debating right now. Also, very diverse approach. Before was a conventional, street art, but during pandemic time, more exhibition time, or more sound art type, more sort of physical hybrid, physical digital hybrid sort of approaches. So also the interesting changing is about more dance film, dance on the film. So street dancers, they creating different way of side space speedway dance creation. So I mean, the interesting things is artists many way struggling, having difficulties financially, but also what is how to we innovate, resilient. So think about different approach, but still there is a small number, small scale, but that's a sort of big challenging point in Korea right now.
My name is Mike Ribalta, and I'm the head of the Department of Professionals, we call it, in Fira Tàrrega. Fira Tàrrega is a performing arts market and street arts festival that takes place in Tàrrega in Catalonia, Spain. And my role as head of the Professionals Department is to be in charge of the performing arts market, to be in charge of the international relations and everything that has to do with transnational and global projects. The current situation of the outdoor street arts in Catalonia and in Spain, in short, of course, the situation currently is bad, as it is everywhere, as the promoters have struggled to keep programs, the companies have not been able to perform live, and we believe that outdoor arts is a form of art that has to be done live. All the debate, that initial debate about digital and showcasing street arts, that was a huge debate in Spain. And my organization, Fira Tàrrega, decided that it's an experience that has to be done outside with active participation of the audiences. So that was not possible. What have we done to keep, with the work done? At the beginning, many events had to cancel and many events had to be postponed. That was inevitable, especially outdoor art, because we had to apply, these rules that apply, which is distance, which is the delineation of spaces, pre-booking, which basically disrupts the essence of the experience in the public space. Others had to reschedule, and they tried to reschedule in May, which was, at the end, they had to cancel, and it was a waste of energy and money. Big events like, the big events in Barcelona, like Grec Festival or like La Mercè, they could be done because they had an investment of a lot of money. The City Council of Barcelona invested 3 million euro to be able to do these events. The other ones, like for example, Fira Tàrrega, was not able, because we are a showcase that takes place in September, and we are a big event in a small city. For those that might not know Fira Tàrrega, imagine more than 100,000 people coming to a village of 17,000. Of course, when the whole outburst of the pandemic started, we could not foresee what would happen in September, which is when the event takes place. So finally, the City Council, which is, in commons, the owner of the event, decided that we could not foresee to have a call of people into a festival that basically takes place in the city. What we do, the events reinvented themselves, and many of them try to do digital and presential, try to do small, because the aim was to allow the companies to work and to allow the companies to show their work and to do some, and to get money, which is the key for everybody, for the festivals, for the marketplaces, even for the institutions. What we did is we changed it. We did an online as a marketplace. Our target is the professional, so it has to be a meeting place. So we kept the meeting place in September, and we decided that the whole festival thing is going to be in 2021 as a nomadic circuit between March and August. What about the aids and the support? The Spanish and the Catalan government did at the beginning approved a lot of emergency measures. The Spanish government approved the 52 short-term emergency measures to face the initial consequences of the COVID. The Catalan government did the same. But one thing, if I have a minute, and one thing that was very curious and I want to stress here, if you look at the document, it's in Spanish, sadly, only in Spanish, but if you look at the whole document about these famous Ministry's 52 measures, the introduction document, which was written along between the ministry and the main cultural Spanish associations, basically revealed the real situation of culture in Spain, and it's the same in many other places. Some quotes: a good part of the business and productive structure, and I'm reading lousy translations that are made of that document. They say a good part of the business and production structure of the cultural sector is non-industrial and subdued to intermittence. So we're talking about basically an artisan form of work, non-industrial. The main expense comes from the public money and it depends on it. Reduction of 10% of public contracting, it will expel thousands of cultural workers and would extinct hundreds of creative projects. So one thing that is clear is that this pandemic, even if we put, or even if the institutions put some money to help, you know, the problem, punctual, you know, problem, it will need at least a change of structure of what it is.
So hi, everybody. My name is Ruth Wickler, and I am the Deputy Director of Programming for Circus at Tohu in Montreal. We are a unique venue that is round. It's like a permanent circus, stable circus building. And we also produce, so we present circus all year round. And then we also have a summer festival that has both indoor and outdoor programming in the center of the city of Montreal, as well as in our own venue and on our own grounds. And I am, for audio description, I am a white American woman in my 40s with brown hair. So Quebec is bound by its weather. And so the outdoor arts are very much circumscribed in terms of their season that they can take place. And so, you know, we have now the cold weather starts to be impending. So that's always on people's mind when you think about what's possible outdoors versus what's possible indoors. And there's certainly a lot of discourse around the pandemic right now about, you know, what's going to happen when we all have to be indoors all the time. Certainly over the summer, as we reopened progressively in Quebec and as virus numbers were pretty low, there was a breath of fresh air and a feeling of, okay, you know, maybe none of the performances that you had made prior to the pandemic will work right now because we have to keep our distance from one another because, you know, various other constraints, but we could maybe make new works that are for this moment. And so there actually came about a lot of support from the city of Montreal and from the province of Quebec for artists to do research and development to create new works. And much of this was for outdoors context. So there's really been an investment actually in artists to think differently about what's possible outdoors and to try and bring their creative voices outdoors. There was even a program from the city of Montreal that said, artists, find a public space that does not need a permit and we'll give you a grant to make something to perform it in that public space. Now, the other thing that was complicated was about getting people together to see the thing. So this has been a kind of, you know, there's been also a tension between what artists are allowed to do in terms of making work and then what audiences are allowed to do in terms of receiving the work. And that's been much, much more constrained. So there were a couple of months in the summer where we had indoor gatherings of up to 250 permitted, but that really wasn't enough of a window for organizers and presenters like us to kind of get the machine going again to then you know, get work in front of audiences at that scale, because then October 6th we all these were closed back down because of a new kind of lockdown light that included closing of theaters. And so basically the things that were able to take place in front of audiences were the spontaneous, short-term, quick, you know, sparks, and mainly outdoors that didn't need kind of a full production machine behind them. When it comes to sharing work with audiences, whether it's through a presenter doing an individual presentation, or whether it's through you know, any kind of endeavor, you know, a season or a festival, anything, most organized attempts to get audiences in front of artists have had some kind of frustration related to COVID in the last few months, I would say. So it's been, you know, we haven't really had enough time to really kind of restart things. And then also because they don't want a huge numbers of people to show up to things, you know, the main well, one important role that festivals and venues have is indeed publicity, and indeed trying to get, you know, let the world know that something is happening. And so we've almost had our hands tied around that because of a very limited number. So it's been a complicated moment, I think, for presenters and those sort of intermediary organizations to know how to connect with the public, connect with artists. I mean, one thing that my organization did, the two main things that we did before, we have attempted to do these projects where we support a company to develop something, and then we also try to connect them with the audience. And we've had a number of interruptions and frustrations and transformations of projects in regard to that. But we were very much able to expand our residency program. We were very much able to welcome artists to come and train more and more of the spaces that we have at our disposal. Those kind of things are permitted. And so we have been able to sort of pivot to welcome as many artists as possible to our spaces to be able to do the research and creation aspect. For the public have been turned into film projects, you know, and so this is kind of how we've stayed in step with artists and to be able to kind of continue to welcome them even if we can't welcome the public. And then the market that I run, the International Contemporary Circus Market, basically made a decision early on to sort of put it 100% online, and to run our market days in July as an online event, and then to just basically to have continual programming throughout the year, whether it's small group conversations or panels or projects that are in collaboration with other organizations. So having a presence in the digital sphere to talk about circus and help circus artists to be more visible internationally. And that's worked fine. So there's sort of like the comfort zones that we found that where we can actually make plans and do them are the internet and then the you know, hosting artists to do development, research, training, and things.
Of delivering our digital activities in Fira Targa, when the whole thing started in the month of May, and the whole thing, I'm talking about COVID, is we had a debate, and the result was two conclusions from our side. The first one is digital is very different from analogical, and we have to state that. And the second one is that we didn't want to create a sort of a short-term solution to overcome the year 2020, because at that time everybody thought that, well, that's going to be 2020. You know, we're going to celebrate New Year's Eve, and 2021 is going to be different. So our idea is this is going to be a long term, and maybe this crisis is an opportunity for change. So that was the beginning of, you know, the revision of what we were going to do. Second part is we were very tight in terms as well in time and money. So Fira Targa had only 3 months to reinvent the whole meeting, which is very short time and not much money. The crisis has impact as well the budgets of the events, the festivals, and the performing arts markets in Spain and in Catalonia. So at the end, with all these scenario in front of us, we decided to launch a brand new digital professional platform called La Llotja Online. And the idea was to create a tool for international digital community to whom to be connected and exchange work. We wanted to promote exchange of words, of information, of knowledge, and of services. So we wanted to create another form of encounter with a very different communication codes from the ones we're used to. The idea was not, again, to transform analogical to digital, but to create a new tool. For us, the great value of digital is that it transcends time and space. So it has an advantage that as a professional meeting allows everybody from everywhere to meet. And it allows as well people that is not into the community. We were thinking about the community, the professional community locally and international is basically, you know, is very small as well. You know, there's those people, we are among them, you know, Rude, Q, they have come to Targa, Maggie from Extracts, we're meeting together. What happened with the new arts officers? What happened with the new young people that are very into digital? That is a way to welcome them into the sector. So our idea was to shift concepts. We were going from website to platform, from list of professionals to community, and from registration to subscription. So that's the idea that's behind Voyage Online. So the people that subscribed, and Voyage Online is still active. So the people that subscribe has a catalog of projects, has an artistic content prescribed by experts, has presentations of shows, has meeting of ideas, has proposal, has a list of colleagues from all over the world that you can more or less, using data, you can select. So it's not the famous list of delegates that come in a PDF or in an Excel, but you have a tool that allows you to say, right, who am I? And what am I looking for? I'm looking for something that has an international market, that is digital, that is street art, and it links to all audiences, and it works on experience or community. And then you make the selection. So this is what we have now. The platform is in beta mode. So we developed the first phase between May and September. And now we have it there. We're revising it, and we're evaluating to prepare the new edition of the new sort of platform. I believe that all our events, PAMs, other digital events have in their evaluation process. So maybe it's time as well to work together. Sustainability maybe is to see, well, we all created platforms. What did work? What did not work? And let's maybe share these things to create something similar. The learning, my belief, my opinion, it has been a little bit of a mad rush of all organizations to lead on the new paradigm. We have to be the leaders, and we have to invent something new, and we have to all do it in 3 months. There have been a lot of experiments done in times of crisis. So we don't know the results. Everybody has been talking about cooperation, but deep down, I think we were competing to discover the ultimate digital tool for professional networking. And there's a big opportunity to work with data. In terms of, for example, for a target, thinking about big data algorithm, like Spotify, like Netflix, this is not possible. It's hugely expensive, but we can, if the term exists, we can work with small data. We can go work with local things to know more or less who is our audience, or who are our professional audiences, and use this data to give them services and to help them. Right, that's the story. But then, who are the recipients of this story? In my opinion, and from my experience, we have been addressed to a sector that is still less open to digital than expected. So there's a shift that has to be done into as well the professionals. We're talking about the companies, and we're talking about the presenters, to embrace digital more than they do. We all know that it's going to be hybrid. We don't want to get all digital, but digital has allowed us now to have connections between Australia, Seoul, Montreal, and Barcelona and London to talk about things that maybe we wouldn't have done that. We wouldn't have been doing that last year. The truth is that digital helps, and digital, in my opinion, has to develop. Everybody has to blend in, knowing that our final aim is to allow companies and artists to meet their audiences live in experiences in the cities. That's my opinion.
So APAM had actually just delivered a major gathering in Melbourne alongside the Asiatopa Festival right before the lockdown. So we had been keeping an eye on things kind of as of, late December into January. We had a few international visitors that were impacted and couldn't join us for that event. But, in hindsight now, I think we really got away with that by the skin of our teeth. We were due to do a second gathering at Darwin Festival in August, and we made the decision really quite early on to postpone that into 2021. And we did that in part because of the level of uncertainty and with a desire to really try and provide some certainty to artists and presenters who were you know, considering the future at that point. That was in March. We then very quickly pivoted, you know, to use that terrible word, to digital programs. So we had started pre-COVID a series of what we call kind of market intelligence and the sharing of ideas and knowledge, which we run, called the WIRE program. And so we've continued to do that program every month, and, you know, to really, I think, a big uptake, you know, in terms of the sharing of that information with the industry, but also with the international community as well. We did a series of artist meetups very early on, again, digital, as a way of really trying to provide a space for artists to talk about what their experience was, and again, to share intel and peer-to-peer learnings. And then most recently, we have just done our first digital delegate program, which we delivered alongside Performance Space, which is an organisation in Sydney. They run an annual festival called LiveWorks. And so we ran it alongside that event. We had 240 delegates from 23 countries attending that event. And again, you know, it was very experimental from our end in how we approached doing that. So we were very deliberately trying to test and trial some different ideas about what worked and what didn't, what delivers connection in the digital space, how do you facilitate, you know, kind of real dialogue and an opportunity to have a deeper understanding of context and also work. So, I mean, I think everyone in this digital space is learning. And I think we've just tried to be quite proactive and open about how we are testing and trialing things. But we imagine that going forward into 2021 and beyond, really from this experience, everything that we do deliver in terms of our gatherings and our other programs will be hybrid in nature. So that will be in real life gathering where that's possible, but always accompanied by quite an extensive digital program. I think the learnings for us have really been about not to say that everyone has digital access, but the level of inclusivity that it does deliver is really, really key. And in a big country like Australia, and also from a sustainability point of view, I think it's increasingly going to be important that we are thinking about how we connect artists and producers and presenters in more meaningful and sustainable ways going forward. And we feel that this is a really important way of continuing to do that. While the outcomes do vary, I think, as you say, that really speaks to the uncertainty that sits within the sector. What is people's capacity? You know, how can they plan? And with what certainty do we understand that international mobility will resume, and in what form? So I don't know, I guess I have quite a long-term view of it, in that there are artists working in Australia who internationalism is fundamental to the practice and to the way that they create their work. It is how they create their work. And likewise, there are curators and presenters who have internationalism at the core of the way that they curate and present work. So our job at this time is to find the opportunities for them to continue to connect to each other and to continue to have those conversations, because together they will be the ones, not you and I, that work out what international mobility looks like going forward. So I guess I just feel like the most important thing we can do at the moment is to hold the space for those conversations, and to really, to a certain extent, freed from the very transactional end of what we're you know, the spectrum that we're facilitating, to really just make that space for the conversation and the dialogue, because that is what's going to shift us into a different realm.
I feel like we have two very separate aspects of what Tohu does for digital. Number one is this question of how do we serve our audience, our large audience of normal everyday people digitally, and that question of what is the appetite for online programming. You know, can you substitute an online delivery for you know, for a live performance? Is it, you know, what is the right way to balance those things? I feel like that's one whole you know, the question of how do you deliver art to audiences, and what's the role of the digital in that process of connection is a kind of a separate track. So I'm going to put that to the side. So just to talk about the market, this was, you know, these are these questions that we have that would have been facing us with ecological questions anyway. But this question of, you know, what can we put online now, since we have the tools to do it, that we couldn't have done it in the past, and what should sort of stay with us. So this question of, you know, arts markets. So arts markets have historically involved a lot of planes and a lot of people flying into one place in order to, you know, connect with one another, and you know, not necessarily around performances. Our market was linked to our festival, and so people, you know, international professionals who came to our festival would have our market as their kind of professional activities during the day. But still, it was clear that, like, when we couldn't deliver the festival to the public in the same way that we had, the market still had value. Now, the question is, what kind of value? Because in a way, what you're saying is, you know, can you measure the outcome? So in past years, we have measured the outcome of our market based on, you know, tours booked at the 4-day market. And there's not a lot of booking going on right now, you know, and that's, you know, you have to, unfortunately, everyone needs to be patient with presenters because we don't know our budgets. We don't know, you know, everything's sort of, you know, it's impossible to plan short-term, medium-term, long-term without really, really solid cushioning from government subsidy. And at least in our context of Quebec, which has extremely high art support compared to other parts of North America, this support is being announced at very, very short-term intervals. So basically, we're you know, 2 weeks ago we found out that we are going to get some support to be able to program through March, but only local companies, that kind of thing. So we're really working in the very short term. So the cycle of booking, where you look at, you know, where you kind of do these conferences and you do the relationships and all these things that you do, but you do them for 2 years, 1 to 2 years in advance, it's really been interrupted, and we're not seeing the outcomes in the same way. So therefore, the markets like the MIC and other markets I've seen going online have really decided, okay, what is our function if not the buying and selling of performances? And, you know, we're really thinking about ideas, and we're really thinking about relationships. And so it's sort of like, well, you know, we are conveners. We are bringing people together around a certain idea. We're bringing people together to kind of process where we're at, what we're doing, where we're going all together. And in fact, there's been a beautiful, so anyway, that's part of the MIC ongoing working groups and things have been focused on that, focused on you know, keeping those relationships, developing those relationships. And one reason we structured it around working groups, we have 14 different working groups meeting in theory monthly to talk about issues like climate and circus, and outdoor presenting and circus presenting in different geographical regions, and there's all kinds of different themes. And so the question, it's really about, you know, doing that think tank work, but having folks from across the sector coming in and participating. And so that's something that we've noticed, that insofar as you know, meeting regularly to talk about things does build relationships, which it does. These working groups are actually very horizontal, in the sense that, you know, somebody who was, you know, there's old-fashioned hierarchies that really were very strictly in place, break down a little bit when you're talking about some common theme. And so that's actually been a very positive thing, I think. Now, can you measure that in terms of an outcome? It's not quite as easy as, you know, it's much neater to say, like, okay, how many tours got booked over 4 days? but I don't think you can really measure we will certainly see, when tour resumes, what outcomes we could potentially measure, and looking backwards, to encompass this period, that would be very interesting to know. But I don't think we're in the period of outcomes quite yet.
The PAMS created called a digital online platform, which we totally transformed the program we had last year into the digital or so-called online. I have to confess, have we failed? Through the failure, we really learn a lot. That means have failure, have new opportunity. Why I say that failure means when we create something digital online platform, what is digital online to us, networking platform PAMS? What is our strategy? What is our philosophy? So how we did it, we did virtual PAMS. Virtual PAMS, we can create a different application people download where there are 3 programs. A networking lounge, where actually people, artists, presenters get together, having chatting, also automatic translation, sharing your business card, and you can know who you are there. That was a lounge, networking lounge. And the exhibition hall, we create, there is, the booth exhibition actually. So you can upload your, the contents, films, and also you can download their leaflet, pamphlet. I mean, so you don't have to sending over, you don't have to, email, I mean, your material, I mean, things. That last one is a content hall. So we pre-recorded with the PAMS Choice 10 productions. And also we curated some innovative thinking, new approach artist works. So content hall where actually time-based, a lot of showcasing, I mean, things. So that was really, we created a virtual PAMS. Interesting findings is we had 3 things. In the digitally, what is more effective? So we found an important thing is rather than production project oriented connection, more we focus on artist oriented connection. Because many presenters, promoters hate to decide something watching the performance. So we providing interview, we providing more artist information. So that was a sort of interesting way of approach. That was a sort of one findings. And also we learned about how we're gonna use in the future big data. Because it's digital, there are so many opportunities, so many programs. So some people, it's very tiring to digitally access. So what we learned about target and segmented approach. So we tried to next year try to collect based on the big data, based on the artist-driven, artist-oriented connection. So creating different algorithm. For example, Mike wanted something more dance, physical-based, city-related, specific way. So we sort of creating that kind of artists in Korea. So providing that one. So learning is so how we going to digital algorithm using in a big data. That was also what we learned. The other one we learned about music and interdisciplinary. That gonna be also dance film. That gonna be new market. So why not create digital agency through that? So especially what we found this year, interesting things is more rather than before was when we do the physically, it was B2B connecting, meaning is artists and presenters, promoters. But this time is more younger generation, because it was a free access. So dance film, gamification, digital hybrid performance, that was more popular. So we're thinking about if we created digitally in a networking platform, there might be new opportunity, different way of digital agency. So there are also, yes, of course, there's a lot of questioning about rethinking about partnership because it's especially digital connection to general big spectrum way of approach. It's very difficult. So we had a big sort of learning point about who are the really sustainable long-term community and partners. Actually, in the end, we really, though 50% failure, we actually learned about how we're going to do next year, what will be important.
So thinking towards 2021, we'll hold 2 gatherings next year. And as I said, they will be hybrid events. So we, currently working on advice that there would be very limited international travel into Australia possible throughout 2021. That may shift towards the end of the year, and we may well have some travel bubbles. There's talk about a trans-Tasman bubble with New Zealand and potentially some of our other Asian counterparts as well. So we wait and see, and we will plan in real life gathering domestically and for whoever else can join us, but with a quite extensive digital program for both those events. In the coming months, we'll do a kind of smaller, and again, I think it's really important for us to continue to test and experiment, and we'll be doing that with Melbourne Fringe later this month, and kind of doing another delegate program that has a very different shape to what we did with Live Exchange. We'll continue our Wire series. Actually, later this month, we will be really going there on this question of the future of international mobility and talking to some artists that are really grappling with that in their practice and thinking about the ways that they can do that going forward. So that's a conversation that we'll have later in the month. I think that conversation will really continue to be with us throughout 2021, 22 and going forward, as we've talked about, not just in response to the pandemic, but equally in recognition of the climate crisis and the need for our industry and our sector to really do things differently. I think one of the big questions that we have, and I guess we're really trying to refine as we build our own digital capacity, is that if we recognise that we're in a period of transition, one of the things that I do wonder about is what are the mechanisms that we need to build new connections? So not just to maintain existing relationships, because I think that there's a familiarity and an ease with which that can happen, that newer relationships are that much harder. So I think for us that's one of the things that we're thinking about a lot. The other thing within the context of digital is how do we create or allow serendipity to take place? What you used to do at the bar after the show or in the line to get a coffee, where you run into someone and you end up having the most amazing conversation because you're there in that space together. How do we think about achieving that within this digital framework? So yeah, I mean they're the things that we just will continue to experiment with, I think, to really try and make sure that we're serving artists and producers and presenters in the best possible way. And
do you have any examples of cross-national collaborations over the past few months, of course, in a digital context.
There's an artist in Australia called Samara Hirsch, and she has presented a new premiere of a work in Tanzam August, which was, she was based in Melbourne, and it was delivered into that festival remotely. She's now working on another season of that work in Hong Kong. So I guess they're some of the things that in this discussion that we have later in the month through our WIRE program, that we're really trying to highlight the artists who are thinking deeply around how they continue to deliver their work and build on their relationships in order to do things differently.
It is clear for us that we have to really rethinking, reshaping international mobility. I believe, yes, after vaccine come out, we might go back to the so-called normal, but does that mean really good? That's a question. So I think during pandemic time made us think about a lot the role of arts, why we have to connect internationally. So I mean, last 8 months really make me rethinking about the meaning of international, I mean, to me, connection. So also the role of art. So what I can really point out is the focus on values, priority, rather than really a quantity. So being aware of green, green mobility things. That was a sort of important learning point. So based on that, I mean, for us is, I don't know how we're gonna change, but clearly what we say is smaller and deeper. Meaning is before was quantity is more important, now is quality is more important. So while the pandemic time, we really developed conversation, trust-based friends and colleague. So for us is more important who will be your reliable colleague, deepening existence relationship. So that's why is a more smaller and deeper perspective connection became very important. I'm sure we will go in that direction. And as Mike talked about partnership, collaboration in a different way, before was circulation touring perspective. So we are thinking more research lab, I mean, developing cultural context-based project together. So I think a networking platform is not just existing for touring perspective. So how we going to deeper way connection? That was really sort of important question for us. So at the same time, artists should think about why international. What does that mean international for you? So that's why we have to. The important point is why. That was sort of last 7 or 8 months learning point.
First of all, that the world has changed, and we have to embrace the opportunities coming from this changing. If I'm going to quote the artistic director of Fira Tàrrega, Maggie Clark. You know, preparing this session, I was talking to her and I said, well, what are your thoughts? Because we're going to talk about artistic things. My role is the marketplace, but I want to hear the voice of the artistic director. And she said to me, for me, the future is going to be interdisciplinary, hybrid, and innovation. It's going to be sustainability, which means, Q was saying that maybe not only touring, but we will have to talk about cooperation in many other ways. Sometimes digital can allow as well working together, creating, thinking. Maybe it's going to be a time, that the famous winter is coming. Well, winter is here. It means that maybe we have to stay home, we have to think. It will help the companies and the artists as well to take more time to think and to create if they have less time to move. So production and the events, the festivals, the presenters have to be with the artists to help them think, to give them money and time to create, to have quality, a lot of quality creations. We have to change the way we do things. Internationalization is a must. So international cooperation must not end. And international cooperation is, Q was saying about to find reliable colleagues. I was reading, I was taking notes. It's to find these colleagues, these reliable colleagues, to put together artists from different places to create and to make new work. In terms of our events, Fira Tárrega, for example, we have for clear that Fira Tárrega as a performing arts market is going to change. So the big meeting we have the second weekend of September, where in 2019 we had more than 900 promoters, might not be possible anymore because what's going to happen with COVID, what's going to happen with mobility, with even food and accommodation. So maybe we'll have to rethought the size of the events to make them less quantity, more quality, to have it as a marketplace adapted to the needs of promoters. Again, the data that we can collect digital is going to help a lot to make the experience even better for everybody, and to create a 4 day, all the work we do along the year online, those 4 days where we can meet, when we can have the beers, when we can be together, this quality, this moment of quality contact that promoters have to have with companies. Yes, we can do it in another way. And it's true that what actually the future is going to be, it has to be a more green in all terms, even digitally green. So it will have to. So we're facing a good opportunity. For Fira, I was thinking about what is going to be our year, and at least we have going on support for creation, and we are working with a program to give money to 2 artists to think, to create, to think on writing for the street arts. We're going to have a nomadic circuit. We're going to have an online. So there's a lot of things that we can still do to reinvent ourselves. So again, a lot of work and very interesting challenges ahead of us.
I think the first thing to say is that the question of international collaborations, presenting and things is a key one, and something that I hope that organizations who have done international work in the past keep very much in their heart as a value. And it's really right now, I think, still really important to say, well, why have we been working internationally? Why haven't we just been working locally? And certainly the answer is, in the benefits, the benefits of sharing international perspectives with audiences, and just the idea, it's not just about a marketplace, it's really about cultural exchange and the benefits of cultural exchange. So I think the international arts exchange as a form of cultural diplomacy remains extremely important, and it doesn't, is not going to diminish just that importance is not going to diminish just because travel is a little harder, So I think it's really important to kind of keep that set of values close and not lose sight of that as we get exhausted by logistical impediments. So therefore, we need to keep looking for ways to do international collaborations that are doable within the current logistical barriers. That said, I think also the fact that there are these limits to travel is also an invitation for certain regions to get serious about local presenting possibilities. So for example, I know Australia has historically been a major exporter of circus, but it has not had a viable touring circuit for circus companies within its own national borders. And right now, there's actually a lot of circus presenting going on, and a lot of circus, because they're sort of fortified and doing pretty well with the virus. The circus companies in Australia, who are some of the greatest in the world, are able to perform more in Australia than they have in the past. So I'm hoping that the same thing will happen in Canada. I know that there's, certainly with the MIC, we're working on that. There's a National Art Service organization for circus called Untitled that's working on that. So there's definitely, a recognition that especially for Quebec and Canada and for Australia, our circus companies are some of the greatest in the world, but they've made all of their revenue by international touring. And so we really need to get serious about building a home for them domestically. So that's not a bad thing either. So anyway, so that groundwork is being laid right now. And then the question of just, how do we keep the international flow of artists going? I continue to believe that it's extremely important for the reasons I said. And certainly in circus, some great we would be missing out on, audiences would be missing out on some pretty amazing ideas if they let go the international component of circulation. And so we certainly need to keep conversant with what's going on internationally, and then find ways to share it with audiences immediately. Maybe that, it is a difficult task to try to deliver that as performance quality work using digital platforms. So it may be that right now I know that our pitch sessions, for example, have included, because they're on Zoom, they've been able to be accessible to artists from all over the world, from Cambodia to Senegal. That's been really wonderful to see what people are making in different places that maybe they couldn't have flown themselves to Montreal to pitch in person. So that aspect of what pitches are possible is really wonderful. And I feel like if we start to look at, keeping that value of cultural exchange, we can, think of new ideas of how to transmit the work of these international artists to audiences locally. And then meanwhile, still doing more investment in our local artists than we have, making those connections between local artists and local audiences than maybe have been in the past. Maybe that's the order of the day right now, but it's still super important to kind of keep those relationships. And so I hope that what I've said has not deterred anyone from participating in these markets, because in fact, the fact that all the markets are going online right now is a major opportunity for artists actually to be able to access, participate, plug in without extremely high fees and without the fees of travel and things. And so actually participating in these markets, while they may not have the same kind of solid outcomes as one would have hoped for in the past, at this very moment, it's a very accessible way to connect with folks. And so it is really keeping those, seeding those relationships, nourishing those relationships, finding ways to talk about topics that are not related to selling your show with folks who may eventually be buying your show. So it is entering into those conversations. I can't overestimate, is that the right word? Anyway, what the importance of participating. Because basically, if you don't participate, then you're absent. If you do participate, then you've been part of whatever the conversation is. And you will stay out of sight, out of mind is even worse right now during COVID, I think, than it has been in the past, and particularly for international relationships. These markets are conveners, and the access is open right now. So it's really strategic, I think, on the part of artists, even though we don't know what's coming, to still stay plugged in, still stay participate in the conversations, stay present. So the markets that are, the MIC continues to be open to participation. You can join by going onto our website today for free, and then you join all the different working groups that you're interested in. And you can participate in pitch sessions and things. Then CNARS is having their week-long web thing this week. IPAY, International Performing Arts for Youth, is doing activities spread out over time. APAB is doing their conference online. ISPA is doing their conference online. So there's, you know, Western Arts Alliance is a US regional market. They had theirs online. So these are, you know, it's an opportunity to show up from your own home and be part of conversations. Why not? It's really a uniquely open moment actually for this. So even though it doesn't have the outcomes that it may not have the outcomes you would have hoped for in the past, at least the door is wide open in a really good way.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you so much to our speakers. It was a real logistical enterprise to organize all these talks with different time zones. So we're really, really thankful to all of them, and to obviously you for joining us. Like I said, we are going to continue conversations like these. So do keep an eye on our newsletter. And like I said, we are going to have a short survey after these events. So please, if you could give us your feedback, that would be much appreciated. So to have this kind of, you know, really interesting conversations that everybody has been talking about during this webinar, we will have a Zoom meeting just now in about, I will say probably 5 to 10 minutes. I'm gonna open the link in 5 minutes. And my colleague Kat is gonna post the link here, but also you're gonna find it in your inbox. You should have an email with both links, the one for the webinar and the one for the meeting. Yes, you can absolutely ask your colleague to join us. I'm gonna post the link here, but like I said, you will find it in your inbox. I sent an email either 2 days ago or yesterday or today, depending on when you registered. So it would be really great to see some of you there. I think that one of the speakers will be there. I can't be sure because of course anything can happen, but I think one of them should be there. So like I said, it would be great to see you there and hopefully see you soon. Or if you can't make it, see you at one of our events. I'm gonna post the link again now. And yeah, if you can't find it, just drop me an email. I'll see you all soon. Thank you for joining us.